Hi everyone, and welcome back to another TFT Masterclass. Today we will be doing an ultimate hero augments guide that will talk about every single hero augment and tell you how to play it. So let's get straight into the hero augments guide. So today there are going to be 8 different hero augments that we will be talking about, ranging from 1 to 3 costs. So we're going to go with Lillia, Elise, Blitzcrank, Poppy as our 1 cost, move on to Nunu, Galio, and Rumble Guides as our 2 costs, and then finish it off with the 3 cost hero augment of Wukong reroll. At the very end, we'll do a recap and then a Q&A for anyone who has questions. So getting straight into it, this is going to be the best of all the carries. This is going to be the 1 cost, this is going to be the 2 costs, and then this is going to be the 3 costs. As you can see, the itemization is a little bit similar. So depending on whether it is an AP or magic damage melee carry, which will be having like Bloodthirsters, I mean, essentially all of the carries will be having Bloodthirsters. All the AP carries will be having like Archangels. Blitzcrank is just a main tank. Galio, we build like previous Bard, and then Wukong standard Bruiser. So this is how you want to go about the itemization for all of them. This is just a general guide. Showing here, these are the odds, the shop odds for different levels. So as you can see, for 1 cost, we're mostly going to be doing a lot of our rolling on level 4. For 2 costs, we're going to be doing a lot of our rolling on level 6. And then for 3 costs, we'll be doing the brunt of our rolling on level 7. The number of units have been increased in set 12. So you see here now we have 30 copies of each tier 1, 25 copies for tier 2, and then 18 copies for tier 3, which make re-rolling these low cost units much easier compared to previous sets. Okay, so let's get started with the first one. High Horsepower Lillia. This is a 1 cost reroll magic damage comp where we are going to be playing Vertical Fairy, and then we're going to be having Callista as our duo carry. Now this hero augment turns Lillia into a powerhouse. Essentially now your Lillia will have 100% bonus AS, will move a lot faster, so this is kind of like built-in tiny but deadly, and then her ability will now deal an absurd amount of bonus damage but only to 1 target. Let's check out how to build here. This is going to be your level 5 board. For all 1 costs, this rule applies where you do not want to be rolling until 3-1. So this is stage 3 round 1. At this point, you should be level 4 after Krugs and have a ton of gold for you to roll on level 4. As I showed earlier, that is the ideal timing to be getting your 1 costs. You want to try to hit Lillia 3 exactly on that turn 3-1, and if you're not close, then you should stop at 32 to 34 gold, so that way you can make 40 in the next turn, and then that way make 50, and then start slow rolling excess above 50. After you hit that Lillia 3, then start pushing levels for just better units, which I'll show on the next slide. For the actual board, just play 4 Bastion for now, and then after we'll transition more into a fairy-oriented board. So this is what your level 8 board is going to look like, where we have Callista as our duo carry. She'll be holding items such as Rage Blade, Last Whisper, and Death Blade, where we have Rakan as our main tank, which will be holding Stoneplate and Declaw. For positioning, you want to make sure that Lillia and Callista are on the same side, and for one reason, first they'll attack the same enemy target, so that way you are focusing all of your enemy damage. And then the second part is you want to position opposite side of the enemy carry. Lillia is a ramping unit with both the Fairy Crown and also the Archangels, so you don't want her to die at the very start of the round. Also, she's just your main melee carry, so you just don't want her to die at all. If the enemy side is very weak, so this means there's like there's a really weak like front line on this side, and the enemy carry is in the back. However, it's either like 2-itemed or a 1-star enemy backliner. Then you can position the same side, and you will not be in any risk of dying. That's how you want to position, and then make sure you put a Shiv on either Zilean or Bard to shred the enemies, as a lot of our damage from Lillia, well, all of our damage from Lillia is magic damage. This is going to be our level 9 board and best in slot augments. So you see here, once we were able to go level 9 and get that Lillia, we can transition more to a vertical fairy build where we have our armor onto Rakan now. And then our duo, we have another trio carry, which will be Camille, which you can give with like BT, Titan, Sterix. Even QS is fine, or just throw a Thieves' Gloves on the Camille. Best in slot augments to go along with Lillia. Well, of course, you need high horsepower in order to play this composition. Fairy Crest Crown is very good. That will allow us to drop a Tristana, which is not doing anything. And then Royal Guard, the fairy tailored augments. So that is the first hero augment. We're going to move on to the next one. So this is going to be Spider Queen Elise, the Elise hero augment composition. This is also another 1 cost reroll magic damage comp. In this comp, we're going to be playing Vertical Shapeshifters, where we have Varus as our duo carry. Now, what this hero augment does for Elise, essentially not only do you get a 2-star Elise, but now the Elise's ability will no longer stun and will poison her current target and 2 closest enemies to her for extra damage over a bleed of 3 seconds. So this is how your level 5 board wants to look like. It's going to be 4 Shapeshifter, and then you can just play any backline, or 2 Dragon is very good. That way you have a bit of heal cuts. And then also your main unit is going to be Elise here, so it doesn't really matter what you have in the back. Same rule for 1 cost. Don't roll until 3-1. Try to hit that at least 3 on 3-1, and then start pushing levels after. The rest of the slot is going to be Bloodthirster and Archangel for sure. Keep her alive, keep her healthy, and also continue ramping with that Archangel. And that very last one can either be a Rabadon's, a Spark, or even a Jewel Gauntlet worst case scenario. This is what your level 8 board is going to look like. So now we have 6 Shapeshifter, and we have Varus as our duo carry, holding items such as Deathblade, Infinity Edge, and Last Whisper. For your main tank, it will either be Swain 2 or Nico 2, depending on what you hit first, or if you hit neither and you're just rolling on level 8 after you hit that at least 3 and you pump levels, then you can put items on Nasus as well. Regarding positioning, make sure that your Elise and Varus is on the same side and it's opposite of the enemy main tank. That way Elise does not get stuck on a super tank. Varus does not matter that much. However, as I mentioned in the previous Lillia board, you want your main damage to be attacking the same unit. That way you can effectively go throughout the enemy board. In this composition, I think Shiv is going to be better than Spark. As you saw from Elise's ability, her 2 closest enemy targeting does not have a range to it, so it is not necessarily within Spark range, which is why I think Shiv will be better for shredding enemy magic resist. And then this is going to be your level 9 capped out board where we can now play around that Briar and Morgana and Smolder. So very high cap of this hero augments composition in general just because of the 5 cost. And then make sure to give either like bruiser items to Briar, AP items to Morgana, and attack damage items to Smolder. Rest of slot augments, of course you need Spider Queen. You can also take a Shapeshifter crest or crown. And then Eternal Growth is the Shapeshifter specific augment where you can start stacking infinite health. Moving on to our third one. So Zap, Attack, Blitzcrank. Super fun comp. This is a 1-cost reroll composition. It is a little bit different than the previous 2 because there is not a set comp that you want to be playing in the backline, at least not yet. The way this works is you're just going to have Blitzcrank as your main tank. So this is the first one where he is not just like an AP carry. And you're just going to have backline depending on your items, whether they are physical damage like attack items or mage/AP magic damage items. There's a lot of carries that we can play, either Ziggs reroll, play around like Karma. We can also do Kog'Maw Jinx reroll, or you could just tempo into Xerath as well. I will say that AP is a bit favored as your backline because Blitz does magic damage from his Zap Attack hero augment, where now your Blitzcrank will become supercharged and you'll deal magic damage to nearby enemies every 4 seconds and on every ability cast. So that's why, since Blitz does magic damage, it's better to play AP because you will be building either Shivs or Sparks anyway. Here are some examples on level 5. So as I mentioned, favor the AP version. So this is what I'll be mainly showing, where you have your Blitzcrank in your front line. Gargoyle, Redemption, Warmogs is very good. Warmogs especially because, well, not only is it just a newly buffed item, but we will be playing a lot of Vanguards, so you will have a larger shield. And then Ziggs in your backline, Shojin or blue buff, Nashers and Rabadons is very good as well. Same rule for 1 cost, don't roll until 3-1. So then you want to do most of your rolling on level 4, and then try to hit that Blitz and Ziggs 3 by 3-1. And if not, then just econ back up, as I mentioned earlier, and then push levels after you hit that Blitz plus Ziggs 3. If you have 80 items, then you can play Hunters in the backline instead, and then either reroll Kog'Maw or Jinx. This is perfectly fine. And then instead of a Galio, you'll be playing Rumble for Sugarcroft. And then this is your level 8 board. As I mentioned, I'm just going to be showing the AP version where we can now play 4 Vanguard and Ziggs as a duo carry. This is the itemization that I mentioned before. Shiv is once again better than Spark in this composition because Ziggs will target backline. So if you position him here, he can sometimes hit all the way here. So then no 2 hex radius Spark will be affecting the enemy backline. So you could just put the Shiv or Red Buff or Morello on your Karma. And then you want to be arcaning, or I guess using your Arcana emblem on, not even the emblem, I call it the insignia, but the Arcana item onto Tahm Kench. That way you have more team-wide HP, which is very important in Vanguards because Vanguard shield is based off of your Vanguard's maximum HP. So more team-wide HP, larger Vanguard shields. And this is how you want to cap out your board, playing around Nora as your 5-cost unit. And then best of all augments, of course, you need that zap attack, Vanguard +1. That way you could play a Hecarim instead of Mordekaiser. Shields up is the Vanguard specific augment, and defensive arts is the Incanter specific augment as well. So any of these are super good, along with any of the non-bolded ones. One thing to note, you want to be putting the Yuumi on the Blitzcrank. Keep him alive. Ziggs will be getting a lot of AP from Incanter anyway, and unless it is a heavy backline access enemy you're fighting, he will not need the healing that much compared to your frontline Blitzcrank. And then our very last 1-cost unit, Witchy Wallop Poppy. This is going to be our first physical damage composition as a 1-cost reroll, where we will be playing Vertical Witchcraft, which means that we will having Zoe or Fiora as our duo or trio carry. What this hero augment does for Poppy, so now the Poppy no longer shields, becomes a lot less tanky, however will strike 3 times, dealing 80% of the original damage, so her tankiness goes down because no longer shields, however her damage goes way up. And this is what your level 5 board is going to look like. Honestly, you don't need to worry too much about this specific Bastion, as long as you just have a Bastion on level 5, so even like Shen or Hecarim are better, and you want to be rerolling for that Poppy and Zoe 3. This is where our main level 8 board is going to go into. So your Zoe items is going to be either Shojin or Blue Buff, and then Nashers, and then Rabadons over Jewel Gauntlet. One thing for the Rabadons versus Jewel Gauntlets, I guess, comparison is most of the time Rabadons will be better. Jewel Gauntlet is better if you already have a crit item to pair with the Jewel Gauntlet, so that way you have 2 crit items synergizing with each other, or you somehow have an absurd amount of AP. I believe it's either 300 or 400 AP, where then the crit from Jewel Gauntlet with this much HP is better than the percent bonus damage amp from the Rabadons. So that's how you want to think about whether you want to be building Rabadons or Jewel Gauntlets. Sometimes also within the trait you have damage amp, so then that way, or in that case, Jewel Gauntlet is better than Rabadons. That's a quick thing of how to do the 2 comparisons. Your leftover 80 items want to be going over to Fiora, and then have an Even Shroud adjacent to your Poppy, so that way the Poppy is able to deal damage to the subject enemies, and your Rise will be holding your utility items, either a Shiv or a red buff, or ideally both. This is how you cap out your board. Once you're level 9, you'll have an easier time hitting that Morgana. Make sure you put some magic damage items on her. So even Adaptive, Spark, even Protector's Vow, these are all very good on her. And Anora in the backline holding some healing reduction. Assault augments, either you need Witchy Wallop to play this composition, and then Witchcraft +1 allows you to drop the Cassiopeia, which isn't doing anything, play a Gwen for 2 warrior, and also Witchcraft the Gwen. So those were all of the 1-cost hero augments. Moving on to the 2-cost hero augments now. The first one we have Sweet Tooth Nunu, and this is going to be a 2-cost reroll magic damage composition. We're going to be playing Vertical Bastion and having Cassiopeia in our backline pumping out DPS. The way this hero augment works is now your strongest Nunu will gain 200 flat HP and also 2% damage amp for every 100 health that he has. Whenever his ability kills an enemy, then that Nunu will gain 35 health permanently. So this is a continuously stacking hero augments into units where you will just continuously get tankier and continuously do more damage based off how much HP you get. This is what your level 6 board is going to look like. So remember now 2 costs, we're going to be doing the brunt of our rolling on level 6. So don't roll or level until 3-2. Then you can level to 6 and stabilize. Now what stabilizing means is, of course, we will not be able to get our 3-star units on this stage specifically compared to like 1 cost. So what stabilizing means is for units that have items on them, you want to make sure that they're 2-starred by 3-2. So this most of the time is just going to be your Nunu and your Cassiopeia. This means that having like a 2-star Hecarim is not as important as a 2-star Nunu that has 2 or 3 items on them comparatively. Try to hit your Nunu and your Cassiopeia or your Syndra by 4-1 or 4-5 latest. Most of the time, you will be going for Cassiopeia carry instead of Syndra because of the item overlap. Syndra wants like rods, she wants like belts for Nashers, or a belt for Nashers, and then also a tier for Shojin. However, this is where our first tier is going to go to, second tier is going to go to, and belts are going to Nunu first. So Cassiopeia just needing rods, bows, and blood sword is different items, and that way you're just able to manage your item economy a little bit better. Once you hit your Nunu and Cassiopeia 3, then you can start pushing levels for this level 8 board, where you can play around 6 Bastion. If you don't have Diana, then you're forced to play Lillia, but as soon as you have Diana, your board looks a lot better. 2 Encounter and 2 Witchcrafts. Cassiopeia is going to be your secondary carry, as you've seen, a double Rage Blade plus a Gunblade, essentially how we built Bard in the previous sets. And for positioning, well, number one, you want to make sure that your Cassiopeia is behind your Nunu. This is just a common strategy where your 2 main damage is attacking the same enemy unit, so that way you're just able to kill it faster, you don't get stuck on anything. And also, you want to make sure that you're cursing the enemy units that your Nunu is attacking. You want to position opposite side of the enemy damage because we are a super scaling composition and we do not want to be targeted first or scammed of any fights. And your Karma will be holding your Shiv and your rebuffs, and once you get your Diana, replace the Lillia for the Diana. This is how you cap out your board. Ideally, you just play a Xerath for 2 Arcana and then put some items on Xerath. You have such a tanky front line that your Xerath is almost guaranteed to cast, so that is super good for you. Let's install Augments to go along with this. Sweet Tooth or Sweet Tooth Plus, Bastion Crest or Crown, that way you can play a Nora over the Shen and then put the Yuumi onto the Nunu. Raid Boss, that way this is the Bastion tailored augment, so as your other Bastions die, they transfer stats over to your strongest Bastion and Nunu just becomes an insane beast. And then Martyr, as your units die off, everybody else will get HP, which is very good. Galio, our next one, Deja Vu. I feel like I already talked about this one. 2 cost reroll magic damage composition. This is a vertical mage, and we're going to have Vex as our main tank and Nami as our duo carry. Now, what this hero augment does for Galio, turns Galio essentially into Deja from the Dragon set, where now your Galio becomes ranged, will gain 15 mana and 6 AP per attack, and his ability will now deal more damage, but doesn't stun or reduce damage anymore. So this effectively turns Galio from a magic tank into a magic attack speed carry in the backline. So you want to be itemizing him with like Rage Blade, Gunblade, essentially like the Bard or the Cassiopeia previously. The way we want to be playing Galio, this is going to be the first composition where we're re-rolling a 3 cost and a 2 cost. So we are still going to level to 6. However, on level 6, we're just going to stabilize and then slowly econ back up. So what stabilizing means is, of course, try to hit that Vex 2, try to hit that Galio 2, or at least a Vex 1 and a Galio 2. You need Galio 2 for sure. Slowly econ back up and then try to get to level 7 by stage 4-1 right after Wolves. Then from here, you can slow roll for that Vex plus Galio 3 while playing all of these traits and this board. The reason why we want to be going to level 7 and doing our slow rolling on level 7, even though our main carry is a 2 cost, is because on level 7 we will have a higher chance of hitting Vex and also having a much higher chance, doubling our chances of hitting Nami compared from level 6 to level 7, and that will allow us to play 5 Mage. 3 Eldritch, the Syndra doesn't really do anything here except provide a little bit of Shred, which is good. However, the Eldritch is the bear that jumps in, or Golem, provides a little bit of extra frontline, which this composition lacks until you hit that Vex 3. This is what your level 8 board is going to look like, where you just added in a Taric. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is your level 8 board. You just add in a Taric for a little bit of extra frontline and also for Portal. And you want to make sure that once you hit your Nord, you definitely play her for 7 Mage. Regarding positioning, make sure that Galio is on the opposite side of the enemy damage. This is always the case for scaling backline carries. If you are the same side and you just randomly get scammed by a front-loaded enemy carry, which front-loaded, it means they do most of their damage at the start of the fight, or their damage does not change throughout the course of the fight, while we are backloaded. So at the start of the fight, Galio does not do a lot of damage. However, as the Rage Blades ramp up, he will start to do more. That's why we want to be opposite side of the enemy damage. Nami will hold our Shiv, Red Buff, or Umbrello, and make sure that you only play 5 mages until Nora, so then you don't have to play a Soraka or a Seraphine. Okay, so this is what our final composition is going to look like. We just add in a Camille or Chrono as well, having Deja Vu as our main augment. If we have a Mage Crest, even better, then that way we could play a Diana over the Seraphine, at least rocket heals. The reason why we do a little bit of position like this is we want to make sure that because we have such little front line, we have some of the other units die first before our Galio or Nunu. So super good composition. Make sure your Yuumi is going to be on your Vex to try to keep her alive. And very good winnow composition. And if you have practice partners as well, which mages will give 8 mana to adjacent or closest units as they cast, then your entire board will be casting a lot, dealing a ton of damage and healing each other up. Okay, getting towards the end now, we have Molten Caramel Rumble, a 2-cost reroll magic damage composition, where we are actually going to be playing Vertical Arcana. So a little bit interesting, but I'll show you what the board looks like after, where we are having Ari as our duo carry. The way Molten Caramel works is now your strongest Rumble's ability will deal essentially 200% bonus damage and also cost 30 mana less. Rumble will also gain 50% Omnivamp, but will no longer reduce damage. So this means that he no longer will gain durability. So deal a lot more damage, however, is less tanky. Here's how we're going to build him. So on level 6, we're going to be rerolling Rumble plus Ari. And for Rumble, BT, Archangels for sure. And because he only attacks the units close by to him, we can be putting a Spark or even like a Rabadon's on the Rumble. Ari in the backline, we don't want to be building Shojin because Ari already has a built-in Shojin from Scholar, so at least Adaptive Helm gives more AP. Nashor's for sure because we want her to be attacking quite often, and then Rabadon's because she does not have any bonus damage amp in her kit. Regarding the Arcana, we want to make sure that we are selecting Ari as we have multiple 3-stars, so then our entire board will be getting more ability power. This is what our level 8 board is going to look like, where we're going to be playing Xerath as well as soon as we hit him. And then you want to make sure that you're Arcanaing your Ari until you hit Xerath. Once you have the Xerath, then you can swap over as the true damage is better. And at that point, you will most likely have a lot of charms, so then you'll be dealing more true damage and it's just more worth it. Your main tank will be Recon, so holding items such as Gargoyle and Redemption, even Dragonclaw, and Tonkinch will be holding mana items such as Vow. Last but not least, make sure you position Rumble and Ari on the same side so that they are attacking the same units and making your way throughout the enemy board. This is how you cap out your board by playing a Morgana. Not only does it provide more frontline, it's just an insane unit and also gives you another Preserver. And your reroll Rumble augments will be either Molten Caramel or the Caramel +1 or a Arcana +1, so that way you're able to hit 5 Arcana. And our very last one for today, the Wukong Spin to Win 3-cost reroll. This is going to be a he does physical damage, however, you're also going to be having Hui as your backline duo carry. And the way this works, so Wukong normally is just a magic tank. However, now this augment turns into more of a bruiser. So his ability, his spin, will now scale with attack damage instead of armor and magic resist. And then after each cast, Wukong will gain stacking, attack damage, and attack speed. So he is going to be dealing more damage throughout the fight. So this is the level 7 board for Wukong reroll. Make sure that you stabilize on level 6 if needed, and you level to 7 by 4-1. After leveling to 7, this is where you will be doing the brunt of your rolling, where you want a slow roll for Wukong plus Hui 3. For your Hui items, make sure you have a blue buff, Nashors, and Archangels or Jewel Gauntlet. I don't think you need Rabadons because of the Blaster's damage amp. And for Wukong, BT Titan Steric is a fine triple combo, where we have Spin to Win and Prismatic Ticket as our 2 main augments we want to have. We're having 4 Preserver to help keep our Wukong alive. Remember that Wukong, his only trait is Druid, so we can't really play around that. So we just have to play some supportive traits in frontline, which is exactly Preserver and is the best. Regarding his items, is going to be BT, Titans, and Steric, and our Hui is going to be holding blue buff, Nashors, and then either an Archangel or Jewel Gauntlet. I believe that Rabadon's will not be that good on Hui because he will gain already damage amplification from the Blaster trait. Make sure that you have some sort of shred throughout the enemy team or throughout your team. So putting either a Spark on the Morgana or Diana, or putting a Shiv on the Milio is ideal. And that's it. So quite a long class and a lot of content. We went over 8 hero augments today, where we had 4 1-cost, and then 3 2-cost, and then 1 3 cost. Super good. All you just have to make sure is that you have proper itemization for each one of these units and that you are rolling at the correct timing. So 1 cost, remember you're going to do most of your rolling on level 4. For 2 costs, you're going to be doing most of your rolling on level 6. And then for 3 costs, make sure you're doing all of your rolling on level 7. That has been everything for today. I hope this helps you out, and next time you get one of these hero augments, you will be confident to take it. I'll be adding timestamps as usual in the video, so as soon as you get an augment, you can quickly head over to the guide and follow those boards provided. That has been everything for today. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you learned something. Have a great day, and I will see you all on Thursday. Thank you.